Welcome to Lethargic, and today I'll be reading to you the Brothers Grimm tale of Ashputtel, or better known as Cinderella. I hope you enjoy. There once was a rich man whose wife lay sick, and when she felt her end drawing near, she called her only daughter to come near her bed and said, "Dear child, be good and pious. God will always take care of you, and I will look down upon you from heaven, and will always be with you." She closed her eyes and died. The maiden went every day to her mother's grave and wept, and she was always pious and good. When the winter came, the snow covered the grave with a white covering, and when the sun came in the early spring, it melted it away. The father then took to himself another wife. The new wife brought 2 daughters home with her, and they were beautiful and fair in appearance, but at heart were black and ugly. And then began very evil times for the poor stepsister. "Is it a stupid creature who sits in the same room with us?" they said. "Those who eat food must earn it. She is nothing but a kitchen maid." So they took away her pretty dresses and put on her an old grey kirtle, and gave her wooden shoes to wear. "Just look now at the proud princess, how she is decked out," cried her stepsisters, laughing. And then they sent her into the kitchen. There she was obliged to do the heavy work from morning till night, get up early in the morning, draw water, make fires, cook and wash. Besides that, the sisters did their utmost to torment her, mocking her and strewing peas and lentils among the ashes, and setting her to pick them up. In the evenings, when she was quite tired out from a day's work, she had no bed to rest on, but was obliged to rest on the hearth among the cinders. And because she always looked dusty and dirty, as if she slept in the cinders, they named her Cinderella. It happened one day that her father went to the fair, and he asked his 2 stepdaughters what he should bring back for them. "Fine clothes," said one. "Pearls and jewels," said the other. "But what will you have, Cinderella?" he said. "The first twig, father, that strides against your hat on the way home. That's what I should like for you to bring me." So he bought for the 2 stepdaughters fine clothes, pearls and jewels, and on his way back, as he rode through the green lane, a hazel twig struck against his hat. So he broke it off and carried it home with him. And when he reached home, he gave the 2 stepdaughters what they wished for, and to Cinderella he gave a hazel twig. She thanked him, and went to her mother's grave and planted the twig there, weeping so bitterly that the tears fell upon it and watered it, and it flourished and became a fine tree. Cinderella went to see it 3 times a day, and wept and prayed, and each time a white bird rose up from the tree, and if she uttered any wish, the bird brought her whatever she had wished for. Now it came to pass that the king ordained a festival that should last 3 days, and to which all the beautiful women of that country were bidden, so that the king's son might choose a bride from among them. When the 2 stepdaughters heard that they too were bidden to appear, they felt very pleased, and they called Cinderella and said, "Comb out our hair, brush our shoes, and make our buckles fast. We are going to the wedding feast at the king's castle." When Cinderella heard this, she could not help crying, for she too would have liked to go to the dance, and she begged her stepmother to allow her. "What, Cinderella," said she, "in all your dust and dirt, you want to go to the festival? You have no dress and no shoes, and you want to dance?" But as she persisted in asking, at last her stepmother said, "I have strewn a dishful of lentils in the ashes. If you can pick them up in 2 hours, you may go with us." The maiden went to the back door that led into the garden, and called out, "O gentle doves, O turtle doves, and all the doves that be, The lentils that lie in the ashes, come pick them up for me. The good ones must be put in a dish, and the bad you may eat if you wish. Then there came to the window 2 white doves, and after them some turtle doves, and at last a crowd of all the birds under heaven, chirping and fluttering, and they alighted among the ashes, and the doves nodded with their heads and began to pick, peck, pick, peck, and then all the other birds began to pick, peck, pick, peck, and put all the grains into the dish. Before the hour was over, all was done, and they flew away. The maiden brought the dish to her stepmother, feeling joyful, and thinking that now she could go to the feast at least. But the stepmother said, "No, Cinderella, you have no proper clothes, you do not know how to dance, and you will be laughed at." And when Cinderella cried for disappointment, she added, "If you can pick up 2 dishes full of lentils out of the ashes, nice and clean, you shall go with us," thinking to herself, "for that is impossible." When she had strewn the 2 dishes of lentils among the ashes, the maiden went through the back door into the garden and cried, "O gentle doves, O turtle doves, all the birds that be, the lentils that lie in the ashes, come pick them up for me. The good must be put in the dish, and the bad you may eat if you wish." So there came to the kitchen window 2 white doves, and then some turtle doves, and at last a crowd of all the other birds under heaven, chirping and fluttering, and they alighted amongst the ashes, and the doves nodded with their heads and began to pick, peck, pick, peck, and then all the others began to pick, peck, pick, peck, and put all the grains into the dish. Before half an hour was over, it was all done, and they flew away. The maiden took the dishes to her stepmother, feeling joyful, and thinking that now she could go to the feast at least. But her stepmother said, "All of this is of no good to you. You cannot come with us. You have no proper clothes, and you cannot dance. You would put us to shame." Then she turned her back on poor Cinderella, and made haste to set out with her 2 proud daughters. And as there was no one left in the house, Cinderella went to her mother's grave under the hazel brush and cried, little tree, shake over me, that silver and gold may come down and cover me." Then the bird threw down a dress of gold and silver, and a pair of slippers embroidered with silk and silver. And in all haste she had put on the dress and went to the festival. She looked so beautiful in her golden dress. Of Cinderella they never thought at all, and supposed that she was sitting at home and picking lentils out of ashes. The king's son came to meet her, and took her by the hand and danced with her, and refused to stand up with anybody else, so that he might not be obliged to let go of her hand. And when anyone came in to claim it, he answered, "She is my partner." And when the evening came, she wanted to go home, but the prince said he would go with her and take care of her, for he wanted to see where the beautiful maiden lived. But she escaped him and jumped into the pigeon house. Then the prince waited until the father came and told him this strange maiden had jumped into the pigeon house. The father thought to himself, "Surely it cannot be Cinderella," and called for axes and hatchets and had the pigeon house cut down. But there was no one in it. And when they entered the house, there sat Cinderella in her dirty clothes among the cinders, and a little oil lamp burnt dimly in the chimney. For Cinderella had been quick, and had jumped out of the pigeon house again, and had run into the hazel bush, and there she had taken off her beautiful dress, and had laid it on the grave, and the birds carried it away again, and she put down her little grey kirtle, and sat down in the kitchen among the cinders. The next day, when the festival began anew, and the parents and the stepsisters had gone to it, Cinderella went into the hazel bush and cried, little tree, shake over me, The silver and the gold may come down and cover me. The bird cast down a dress, like of which had never been seen, for splendour or brilliancy, and slippers that were gold. And when she appeared in this dress at the feast, nobody knew what to say for wonderment. The prince danced with her alone, and if anyone else asked her, he answered, "She's my partner." And when it was evening, Cinderella wanted to go home, and the prince was about to go with her, when she ran past him so quickly that he could not follow her. But he had laid a plan, and had caused all the steps to be spread with pitch, so that as she rushed down them, the left shoe of the maiden remained sticking in it. The prince picked it up, and saw that it was gold, and very small and slender. The next morning he went to his father, and told him none should be his bride save the one whose foot fit into the golden shoe. The two sisters were very glad, because they had pretty feet. The eldest went to her room to try on the shoe, and her mother stood by. But she could not get her great toe into it, for the shoe was too small. Then her mother handed her a knife and said, "Cut the toe off, for when you are queen you will never have to go on foot." So the girl cut her toe off, squeezed her foot into the shoe, concealed her pain, and went down to the prince. Then he took her with him on his horse as his bride and rode off. They had to pass by the grave, and there sat two pigeons on the hazel bush and cried, "There they go! There they go! There's blood on her shoe. The shoe's too small. She's not the right bride at all." Then the prince looked at her shoe and saw the blood flowing, and he turned his horse around and took the false bride home again, saying that she was not the right one, and that her sister must try on the shoe. So she went into her room to do so, and got her toes in comfortably, but her heel was too large. Then her mother handed her a knife, saying, "Cut the piece off your heel. When you are queen, you will never have to go on foot." So the girl cut a piece off her heel, and thrust her foot into the shoe. She concealed her pain, and went down to the prince, who took his bride before him on his horse and rode off. When they passed by the hazel bush, the two pigeons sat there and cried, "There they go! There they go! There's blood on her shoe. The shoe is too small. She's not the right bride at all." The prince looked at her foot and saw how the blood was flowing from the shoe and staining her white stocking. And he turned his horse around and brought the false bride back home again. "This is not the right one," he said. "Have you no other daughter?" "No," said the man. "Only my wife left behind, her stunted Cinderella. It is impossible that she can be the bride." But the king's son ordered her to be sent for. But the mother said, "Oh no, she is much too dirty. I could not let her be seen." But he had her fetched, and so Cinderella had to appear. First she washed her face and hands quite clean, and went in and curtsied to the prince, who held out to her a golden shoe. Then she sat down on the stool, drew her foot out of the heavy wooden shoe. Then she sat on the stool and drew her foot out from the heavy wooden shoe, and slipped it into the golden one, which fitted perfectly. And when she stood up, and the prince looked into her face, he knew again the beautiful maiden that had danced with him, and he cried, "This is the right bride." The stepmother and the two sisters were thunderstruck, and grew pale with anger. But he put Cinderella before him on his horse and rode off. And as they passed the hazel bush, the two pigeons cried, "There they go! There they go! No blood on her shoe. The shoe's not too small. The right bride she is, after all." And when they had thus cried, they came flying after and perched on Cinderella's shoulder, one on the right and the other on the left, and so remained. And when her wedding with the prince was appointed to be held, the false sisters came, hoping to curry favour and to take part in the festivities. So as the bridal processions went to the church, the eldest was on the right and the younger on the left, and the pigeons picked out an eye of each of them. And as they returned, the elder was on the left and the younger was on the right, and the pigeons picked out the other eye of each of them. And so they were condemned to go blind for the rest of their days because of their wickedness and falsehood.